Alright, this is an application created with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Let me show you what it does. So this is a text box. Whatever you write or whatever you type inside the text box, you can save this file with a file name, and you can save the file with either of this type. Either it can be text file, HTML file, CSS, JavaScript, Microsoft Doc, Microsoft PPT, SVG, CSV file or JSON. So let me just give you a demo. So I'm just typing some random text and I'm going to name this as UI Monk, and I'm going to save this as text file. So if I click on save file as txt, and this file would be stored. So it is asking me to save. I'll just choose this folder and click on save button. Now let me navigate to that folder, which is this one, and you see there is UI Monk file, which is txt file, and you should see the content whatever we pasted on the text area, that would be inside this text file. So you see UI Monk is a YouTuber. Whatever you type on the text box, you got it as a text file. So tutorial and source code available on my YouTube channel. Alright, if you wish to learn more such tutorial, you have to get into my channel, and I have a collection of JavaScript playlist. So here, get into the playlist where you will find JavaScript related projects. So I have games in JavaScript, and let me search for JavaScript here. Over here you will find the vanilla JavaScript project tutorial. I have like 90 plus tutorials in a single playlist. If you are an intermediate level developer, you can directly jump to this video and start along. But if you are a very beginner, I would recommend you to start from episode 1. So you can see I have started from episode 1 and now I have reached till here 95. If you have no idea of what Java is, I would recommend you to start from episode number 1. So if you are okay with HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and you don't need quite introduction of each function and each value or each variable, you can directly jump and start along with this current project which you have clicked on. Now for each videos I have left this code in the description. You just need to click it and start coding with me. So in case if you got stuck somewhere, you can just copy paste the code which I have linked in the description, so that you don't get stuck anywhere. So that's enough for the intro. Let's just get started with the project. Alright, let's start creating the files. We just need 3 files, HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So you can give any name. So let's stick to the default one. Let me just press Ctrl N and let me create a new file. And now it's there. I'm going to name this file as index.html. So we are going to store it into a folder which is in the which is in the desktop. So in the desktop we have a folder called save as file, and I'm going to name it as index.html. Likewise, I'm going to press Ctrl N and create a new file, and we can save it as style.css. And then a new file. I'm going to save the script file, so we can name it as script.js. You can give any name. The extension should be unique, or the extension should be proper. In this case it's .html, .css and .js. So in the HTML I'm going to create a boilerplate code, exclamatory and tab. Since it's Visual Studio Code, it's going to create a boilerplate code for us. So for the HTML we can have a container. Inside container we will be having text area. We don't need this name and ID because it's for the tutorial. If it's proper project, you should give name, and here we don't have a definition, so the name will be this here. Log for let's say log of 35 words tab, and here you go. And then we need option, and inside option we would have file name, and we would have save. Select. Cool. In the file name div we would have label, and we can name it as file name, because you will be giving a file name, and then we will be having input type text. Again, it's a tutorial. I'm just leaving it with the default one, because with the JavaScript or with the CSS I'll be just grabbing the input type text. And then we can have a copy of this and place it in the select tag, and here it's going to be a select tag, so it's nothing but a drop down. So input type select, so this is how it's going to be, not input type select. And then we would have option would have a value, here in this case .txt file, and you can name it as text file, and in the bracket you can give .txt. Likewise you can have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, doc file and ppt file. .ppt, .doc, HTML, CSS, JS. You can have the same name over here. Let me just copy it, pause this and do it by my own. And once it's done, as the direct child of container, we can have button div, which will have input type or just directly type button, and here you can make save file as, and here you will be giving a random value here in this file .txt. It's not a random value, based on your select we will change this span tag. And now let's see how does our HTML looks like without CSS. And this is how it looks without CSS. Let's just add CSS to this file, and here we are going to use the font the Google font called Poppins. Just copy this CDN and place it in your style.css, and that's it. And here in the URL you can see that's the font called Poppins, and these are the variation of the Poppins that you can use in this project. Now to have this, we have to mention for all element let the font family be Poppins, and not to forget to override the browser's default margin and padding. We are going to remove margin 0 and padding 0, and we are going to make it box sizing as border box. So this is required to override the default behavior or default margin and padding that is provided by the browser. And these are the CSS rule, just to avoid the overriding conflicts. Now for the body, let the width be 100% of viewport width, and height be 100% of viewport height, and let the background be something blue. And since it's Visual Studio Code editor, you can just click on this color, and it will open a pop-up where you can modify the color. Let's just have this similar to something like sky blue, and there you go. Now if I let that be, let me just refresh this and show you. Now you will see, make sure to link your CSS file, which is style.css, and your script file at the bottom, which is script.js. And once you link your style sheet with your HTML, you will be able to see the CSS applied to it. Now for the container, let's make the width of the container as 500 pixel, and let the background color be white. And if I make a refresh, and you will see 500 pixel container width, and then we have, make sure your spelling for the container is right. I think my PC is running a little slow, and yeah, that is very mistake, I guess, as I guessed. And now if everything goes right, it's not saved yet. If it's not saved yet, you will see the dot instead of cross. So if we find cross, then it is saved. So we want this black container to be at the center. In that case, you need to call the parent of the container. Here in this case it's body. We have to give display flex, align item center, and justify content center. Now it will be at the center. Now let's to give the padding for on all sides. We can have top bottom 10 pixel, left and right 20 pixel, and bottom 30 pixel. If you make a refresh, you will see the padding all around. So let this be 30 as well, top and top, and let the border radius be 6 pixel, and box shadow. As said, you can see we have a picker and use it over the container, and in the style sheet you should see, and I feel this is right. And if you want, you can add a y-axis a bit. Just copy this code and give them to the, and now we can give for all the input field width of 100%. So let's just start with the text area width of 100%, and likewise we will have an input field, the select button, and the actual button. Just save this and go for the browser and click on refresh. You'll see, and in the option which holds the file name as well as the option, so we can make this display flex, and over here we can give the width as 50%. We'll use the CSS calculation function, 50% minus 8 pixel on both sides. The same way for the select div, let's try making this 45. Yep, that works. Now this file name contains label and input field. Let's just make this display flex, align item center, and justify content center. Now you see it has taken the 50% and 50%. We don't want this to act as a column, we want it to act as a row. So flex direction, it should be a row. Let me just see, there seems to be an issue over here. We should say flex direction is not saved yet. Actually this should be flex direction column, so we can have the same for the select tag as well, because it also has label and select. And now for the option, let the width be 100%, and we need space between, so in that case justify content, we can have space between, so we get some space between these two. Now let's try this, making this 50%, and now it works. And instead of file name, we can make this file type. Make sure it's saved. And now I want this file type to be over here, so in that case what you need to do is we just need to modify the justify content to flex start. Same for the type as well. Select justify content, if maybe let's try this. Yeah, actually we should modify the align items. Cool. And for the input tag, we can have the height like 60 pixel, and the same for the select tag. think it's a bit too much. 40 pixel would work. And for the text area, let's have font size 17 pixel and padding of 5 pixel on all sides, and let the height be like 100 pixel or 200 pixel. Yep, that seems okay. And we can make, see there's a resize option, we are able to resize it. So to hide that, you can make this resize none. Now it would be hidden. And if you want, for the option, we can have margin top of 10 pixels so that we can get some space between the text area and this. The same way for the button, we can have a margin top. Making this 30 pixel for the text areas, and we can have this for the button as well. And for the button, we can make the background color as same as our background color of HTML, and we can remove the, we can do one thing, we can have text area input button, we can remove the margin, sorry, you can remove the border and outline. Now if I make a refresh, you should see, and I think text input can have a border. One pixel solid black. We'll change it in a minute, not to worry. And then for the button, we can have color of white. For button, we have over here color as white. And if you want, you can make this as 40 pixel height. And for all element, we can have font size of 17 pixel. And for the button, we can have cursor as pointer. So I hover, you'll see the cursor changes to pointer. So I think this is cool. And if you want to change the border color to have an opacity not direct black, make sure it's saved, and here you go, it's not direct dark black. The same way we can have this for the text area as well. Cool. I think it's time for the JavaScript. Alright, so for that, let's just get all the values. So document dot query selector, we have our text area, we have input field, we have button, and we have select. So this is select tag, this is input tag, and this is button. Cool. So we just need to properly use the file name, class name, it's inside class name, the input is inside the div class name, and the select is inside the div select, and the button is inside, since we have only one button, we don't have to name them. So when I click on the button, add event listener, when I click on this button, what should happen, we need to get the text area value. console.log. So this is actual text area, and to get the value we have a property called value. Make sure it's saved and get into the console. Sorry for that. And if I type something like text and if I click on save, you see text, and I monk click on save, we get value. Now here in the select tag, when I select text file, here we need to pass the mime type. So if this is text, we need to pass the mime type as, and if it is HTML, it should be application, and if it is CSS, it is text CSS, and if it is JS, it should be like text/JS, and likewise we can have CSV file, we can have JSON file. I'm pausing this and working on it, and once it's done I'll resume it. Now we need to get this value and pass it into a object called blob. So blob, you can see, I'll leave this link in the description. So actually blob is nothing but an interface. We can, using this interface, we can create any type of file format, in short. So let's create an object for the blob. New blob, and it would be expecting two values. The first one is content and the second one is mime type. So for the content we have this value, we'll be passing this as an array, and for the type it should be a object, and here we can pass the select tag value. And let's just store this into a value called blob. You can make this constant, and let's try to print this using console.log, and once it's saved, make sure to check this in console. So this should work when I make a button click.
Oi, victim to win over the dong. A victim dong.
So let's just check this now. So if I select this to .html, and we should see the blob. Yeah, we got the blob. You see, this is of applications/html, and the size is of 265. Let me just make this to text file and click on save. Now this is again, the size is 265 and the type is blob, and these are the relevant functions for the blob, like we have slice, stream, text and type. Now what we do is we need to create a URL based on the past blob. So here, so this is the default function provided by the block. We need to pass this created block over here, and this is the file URL we'll be getting. So if I try to log it, console.log, you should get the URL of the past object. And later on what we do is we will use our JavaScript DOM element to create a link which we will make it for the download. We'll make it downloadable. I think it's taking some time, much time to save than the regular day as we used to practice. .html CSS file, and you should get the link. So you see you got the link, and you see there is null. It's better to have this in our local host. I'm going to run the XAMPP and going to copy paste all the folder structure into now we have to get into C drive, and I have XAMPP htdocs, and just freeze your folder. And now this is the UI of XAMPP. You just have to click on start, and that's it. And as we know, we have pasted our folder in the C drive, htdocs in the XAMPP, and we can access the file name with, so this is the file name. Just copy this, and once the XAMPP is running, it's not yet running, you just have to type localhost, and after the slash you have to paste the file name, and then it would open by itself. The only condition is your XAMPP should be running. If the XAMPP isn't running, you won't be able to, you won't see the actual HTML loading. You will see some server error. A XAMPP is nothing but a local server that we have installed in my PC, so that this is how it looks when your XAMPP is not running. So it's not responding. Let's just wait. And now you see, if I try to change this to CSS file, you see the local host, and then we have some binary values. So let's just create a anchor tag with JavaScript. Document dot create element, and here in this case it's going to be an anchor tag. Let's just name it as a tag, and then what we have is, what should happen, let me just wait for a minute. We have an anchor tag, and then we have to give the name of the anchor tag. So to give the name of the anchor tag dot, we are setting an attribute called download to an anchor tag. So just by setting the name, just by setting the attribute called download, it would accept and expect a name for it. So here we are going to set the name like input tag dot value, and we have set the input tag. Now we need to set the href. Anchor tags href is going to be this file URL, and then we are manually setting this click button. So when I click on this button, as we know, if an anchor tag has an attribute called download, if we click on it, the anchor tag's href value will get downloaded. So that's what we are doing here. I am clicking on the button, but that click is explicitly given to the anchor tag with these values. So let's just wait. If everything goes right, we should get the text file. So UI monk text, and let's just fix this value to text and click on save. If everything goes, I think I have not saved or refreshed it. Let's just see whether all the things are saved. So UI monk, it's actually the text file. Click on save. Do we have a console? Console is not there. Actually, we have copied this, and I have made a mistake. Whatever you write it, we have moved the folder, but we haven't edited it. So we have to open that folder in the Visual Studio Code and try to edit it. So this edit has been done on the file which is in the local. So now we have moved this into a server called XAMPP. Then it's obvious that we have to edit that file instead of editing the file which is in the desktop. XAMPP htdocs. Then we have file upload. Select this file upload, and click on select folder. Then you will see the file upload file will be loaded on the Visual Studio Code. Sorry, I have opened the long file. Now we have to open the save file, not the file upload file. The Visual Studio Code has opened our code. In the style.css, we just have to the file which we have modified, make sure it's saved. If it is saved, you see cross instead of circle. So let's just type some random value or name of the file, the text file, and click on save. Control U. Let's just see whether our script file is loaded or not. So in the script.js, I think it's not loaded yet. Hard refresh. I'm hard refreshing it again. Yep, you'll see this is txt file that got opened by itself. Alright, it's a very simple mistake. There is no n. Thanks to ChatGPT, it allowed me to debug quickly than I usually do. So if I type the name of the file as UIMonk and click on save, you will see the file getting saved. And now you see it is asking me where to save. Let me just click on save, and to open it, what we can do is from the browser, if I click on Ctrl O, and in the desktop we have saved the file with the name called UIMonk. Let me try opening it, and here you have the content. And before that, you'll see this is .text. If I try to change it and click on CSV file, this thing should get changed. So for that, what we do is, let's just call this button. Inside button we have a span tag. So span text. So what should happen? So when there's a change on the select tag, add event listener, which is change. When there is change, what should happen? We need to get the select tag dot option, and over here we should get the index that is selected. So select tag dot index, which is selected. Let's try to see it selected text. Let's try to console this. Console.log. So as we change, what should happen is, as we change the select tag, the we should see a console of the selected item. That's what that console does. HTML. I think it's not saved yet. Cool. Now I have modified this. It's not index, it's actually selected index. This is the default property of select tag, and to get the text of the option tag, you need to pass the text value. Now if I try to select HTML, you'll see HTML file. If I try to select CSS, you see the CSS file. The same way, we need to get the span tag dot inner text equal to, just pass this text. That's it. As we change, we should see the text that gets changed on the button. Cool. And if you don't like this text, you want to remove this, you can do that. What we can do is, we can split this, SPLIT, split this on space, and let's try to access the first value. Let's see what we get. And what I did is, instead of writing this over here, I have return it in the next line, and that works. So this is text, so this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. Again this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. This is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. So we are just accepting the 0th value, so in this case the first value. So if it is text file, you'll see it's text. If it is HTML, you'll see it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, doc, and so on. Cool, save as text. So let's just remove this default text from HTML. And now we need to make this required. So by default in the style we have a button, and we have to make the button as opacity 0, and so we have a text area. Just understand the HTML, we have a container. Inside container we have text area, and we have a button. So these are the direct child. So here we can make opacity 0.6, and let's see how does it look like. Make sure it's saved, and it's getting reflected, it's getting loaded. So this Chrome is not responding now. Inside we have button, yep, now it's working. So by default it's going to be this way, and pointer event as none. So if when I make this pointer event none, if I try to hover on it, you will see nothing is, you're not able to click it. So when this is valid, the text area is valid, then immediate after, so the adjacent child, which is these buttons, we can have opacity and the pointer event. Opacity as 1, pointer event as auto. Refresh it only when it's valid. So actually it's because of this phase it's taking, that is required. So now it's required, so it's blank. If I try to type something, so this is active, so that means this is working. So if there is nothing, that means it is required, and it is giving the CSS of opacity 0.6 and pointer event none. So when it is valid, then you will see